gentlemen, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of League of Legends as we jump into this, the first game in our quarterfinals of the EUS Challenge Series number 20. My name is Metis, I'm joined by Stress, and we are already into the picks and bans.
We are indeed. I am looking forward to this one. What a game to start us off here for the Challenger Series. Cloud9 Eclipse going up against Reason Gaming. And we're already in the picks and bans, as you said. Some bans coming out already. Very high-profile bans already. Renekton and Lulu have been played oh so very much in just about every scene. We've seen Renekton be a very high-priority pick once again for that top lane. Typically in career as well, but already banned out here, so we won't be seeing that.
Yeah, top tier, top laner alongside Lulu, as you said. Talon is a fairly interesting ban right off the bat alongside Wukong, who's been seen a lot more from the jungle recently.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of Wukong, very strong in the early game. Talon's actually a little bit of a surprise to me. Now, I know whenever we have one of these bans, there's always someone in chat that's like, Barney D's been playing Talon in these games. And unfortunately, especially with IEM going on, this past weekend and OGN and LPL and everything that has been going on, I haven't been able to track a lot of these teams as well as I normally would like to, so it's very possible that Talon has been played recently in the European Challenger scene and I've missed it, so apologies if that is the case. Trundle rounds out the last bans, which leaves Kha'Zix available, which we've seen out of KT Roster Bullets and just about every other team that has, had that aggressive jungle style.
Insec was ruining Fnatic with the Kha'Zix pick, so it's going to be locked in straight over towards Reason Gaming, who very quickly, it has to be said here, Stress, lock in the LeBlanc and Thresh. That was about a second.
They do, and I always feel like LeBlanc open pick in that middle lane is very strong message of intent that you feel you're better than your opponent. LeBlanc does have a couple of trickier matchups in that middle lane. We'll see exactly what gets picked against that. Kassadin, of course, is available, as is Nidalee here. But just had a message from some of the guys from Reason Gaming. So it's actually banned out against Sencux from some solo queue. So interesting there that solo queue is kind of bleeding in to the competitive edge here.
And of course, both of these team Stress, we've seen them recently, both been doing pretty well. So they're probably going to have quite a lot of information on one another, probably able to watch some of those VODs.
Yeah, we've seen quite a lot, even in these matchups. I mean, in the Coke Challenger Series, Reason Gaming actually have a 4-0 record against Cloud9, which is very interesting when you consider as well that Reason are currently undefeated in the Challenger Series, as well as Cloud9 underperforming somewhat in certain tournaments. We were casting the Face It Invitational, where Cloud9 would go out in the first round. We've had a few more picks here in the picks and bans phase. Of course, Nidalee picked up on the side of Cloud9 for that middle lane. Then the answer to that is going to be Lucian and Shyvana, so leaving their jungler most likely till last.
Interesting stuff here. Of course, Shyvana has been played in the jungle before, most notably from Diamond Prox, but that has been a while back. You can see that Trashy has actually just taken the smite there, so it's going to be quite interesting to see if they do go for the jungle last pick, or indeed if it's going to be the top laner. Maybe waiting to see what the top lane is from Cloud9 as well, trying to bait in this kind of counter pick.
Yeah, we'll see where this goes. Shyvana jungle always reminds me of the old Lowland Lions lineup. Really, just anytime I see Shyvana jungle, that's what I get flashbacks to. Ryze is a champion that Cloud9 have been playing. I was actually looking through Odo Amne's stat lines and champions that he's played, and of course we've seen the return of Ryze in the top lane. The additional health that he got in the recent patch has actually made him fairly strong, so I wonder whether we will indeed see him up in the top lane. Yeah, it would make sense with the way that things are going here. So when all the champion picks have settled, we'll be able to figure out all of our picks. Looks like, of course, I was going to say, of course, Lee Sin on Ku, but it's actually on Reason.
And he had the opportunity to go for the Lee Sin, but as we said previously, locked in the Kha'Zix first pick very quickly, so obviously going to that very strong champion right now in the current meta. It looks as though Shyvana will be played at top with Lee Sin rocking out the jungle, and lots of mobility on either side as well, actually, Stress, it has to be said, but a lot of poke as well from the side of Cloud9.
Yeah, surprising amount actually, and I wonder what playstyles we'll see out of Ku in that jungle, especially up against Trashy, because that's something that's going to be really interesting to see whether Ku goes for a particular European style or more Korean on that Kha'Zix jungle that we saw come out at IEM. Nevertheless, I believe we're going to head to a very short break as we're in the delay period. So we'll be back with game number 1 here between Cloud9 Eclipse and Reason Gaming for the EUS Challenger Series number 20. Welcome, guys, to game number 1 here between Reason Gaming and Cloud9 Eclipse. We are on the Rift for this game, one of our best of 3 series in the Challenger Series number 20 already. Already celebrating that big anniversary. And I am Stress. Alongside me for all of the action this week will be, as always, Vince Metashill.
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey Stress, it's good to be casting with you, and it has been a little while since the Face It Invitational that we casted in Italy, Milan, but this has the makings of a great series. As you say, 20, it's incredible to think that we've already hit that mark. I remember when it was back to 1 and 2. Seems like forever ago, actually.
Oh man, with that when I was young talk, Vince.
When I were a lad, things were a bit different around these
dear.
parts. Things have improved a lot in a lot of different ways, but one thing that has changed quite a bit is that we don't see as much level 1 aggression. Back then, we'd see First Bloods flying down left, right, and centre. Seems a lot more passive right now in this current meta.
Oh, that segue. That's put a smile on my face. Nice and smooth. Yeah, but that is a very good point. And there's a couple of different discussions that have gone on and internal within players on what the reasons are for it. Of course, because of the way that wards become active at 1:30, it means you just have enough time to defend against any kind of invades that are late. But it's also very, very risky to actually go for them full on. So it's one of those things that I believe there's some kind of internal work going on how they can kind of make level 1s a little bit more interesting. But, you know, this game going to start out pretty defensive here.
Yeah, it is, and interesting enough, both duo lanes opting to go to top, so that is going to leave the solo top laners, as we normally call them, bot. So Rise against Shyvana down there. That will leave Lucian and Thresh up against Caitlyn and Annie.
And it's interesting here. I'm actually wondering, I didn't see which team angled their way up towards the top lane first, but I have a feeling that Reason would have liked to have put the 2v1 pressure on Rise, because Rise typically doesn't do very well at all in the very early 2v1 situations. Can farm himself up fairly well afterwards, but would much prefer to be able to get this early farm under his belt. Of course, Rise scales incredibly well into the late game once he's got that itemization. You look for Seraph's Embrace, you look for Rod of Ages, and from there you become, as I believe Riv coined it, the machine gun spellcaster.
Yeah, very true. Just firing out those spells over and over again, do so much damage. And also, on top of that, Stress, incredibly tanky. That's another terrifying thing about Rise, is not only does he spew out damage like there's no tomorrow, but he's very difficult to take down.
Yeah, and of course, recently he even got a health improvement at the beginning of the game in his very early levels. Now, Rise was seen a lot during Season 3. There was that period where Jace, Rise, Kennen was the trio in top lane, and you never had anything else. Then he got nerfed with a couple of his different things on his ultimate, but with the added health in the early game, it allows him to survive through the early game very much better. So that's why we're seeing him back in the game.
Alrighty, well, both junglers actually following pretty much identical jungle paths right now. You can see both of them down towards the bottom of the map. But Rise is constantly pushing. Beansu is back on his own tower, so this is allowing a Dominator to pick up plenty of farm. That being said, Shyvana is actually keeping toe-to-toe with him, so it's not necessarily terrible news. But neither jungler seemingly wants to make a play up until this point. Now Kha'Zix is coming down to bot lane.
Yeah, we'll see whether he can actually get in here, because he's going to have to dive a turret if he really wants it. And it looks like Beansu's actually going to have some help from Trashy if this is indeed a dive. Looks like Trashy just coming down to help clear out anyway. But, you know, this is quite a bit of aggression out from the junglers if they did decide to go for this. I think this is the right call here from Ku to look to back off.
Yep, he is backing away. There's not a great deal of chance to actually dive underneath that tower pre-level 6 and secure the kill on Beansu, who's pretty tanky right now with the Doran Shield start. LeBlanc is going back to spawn and we'll be trying to pick up some items. But apart from that, Stress, it's been a fairly slow, steady approach in the early stages of this game.
It has been, and it's something that I wanted to bring up that I think kind of would tie into that tower dive attempt there if they had in fact gone for it, is Kha'Zix is not tanky at all in the early game, and a bit of a shift in the change of play on Kha'Zix recently, brought about actually by Insect this weekend. There was a very, very interesting thread that kind of started to look and explain why. That Kha'Zix, typically European junglers have been evolving Leap first at level 6, gives you the resets, allows you to control fights a little bit better. However, Insect introduced this, evolving the Void Assault to get that extra damage reduction, and then itemizing towards more of a tank and it actually means you can soak up a fair amount of damage. I'm very interested to see whether Ku will go for his usual leap evolve first, or whether he'll have adapted over to Insect style of play. That's something I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Well, right now he is going to be stealing away that Wraith camp from Lee Sin, who's more opting for this big Wraith at the bot lane. Has just smited that one away. Meanwhile, Kha'Zix is now moving down to mid lane against Senku, probably waiting for that distortion to come on through with a 13-second cooldown would be ripe for the taking. But you can see that Reason Gaming's mid laner is playing this very passive, very, very smart play.
And Forbidden actually hit level 6 first, so it means that he's been able to pressure in that Cougar form and force Senkux back there, and they might even have found Trashy here as he ward jumps to the side.
Yeah, lots of damage being burned down. Flash and leap there from Ku. Here comes a Javelin on top of that. Trashy could be falling down. Flash in from Nidalee. Secures the first blood. Awesome play.
And that's a really important first blood. Senkux trying to go aggressive once again, takes a lot of damage in response.
He does, but he should be okay. Jumped in with distortion, then cancelled it away again. But that first blood on Nidalee is going to be so important, and you can see now that Febiven and Ku may be thinking for a couple of seconds about trying to ward out or maybe even start the dragon, but it was a bit too dangerous.
They were thinking about it. Ku with the Spirit Stone can look to solo it, but he doesn't have any potions or anything to really help himself sustain through that. They were relying on Forbidden's heal, which is going to soak up a lot of the mana, and with that Forbidden not really able to output too much damage. So between the two of them, even though they would have had the isolated damage, the fact that LeBlanc's around, Lee Sin was back, they may not have been able to get it. So they go for the safer play there and secure their own jungle first.
Yeah, speaking of safer, it's kind of the similar how I describe how Febiven is starting off his build, going for double Doran's ring, so going for that extra hit points, stats on his belt, and also going for a bit more ability power as well, because of course Senkuz's LeBlanc is going to be jumping in and kind of melting him down, so it's important to have that extra 80 or so hit points that he gets, 60 hit points he gets from the Doran's ring.
Okay, so there's my answer, is Ku has actually gone for Insect's way of taking Void Assault as the first evolution, so very interesting to see that immediate adaptation to a different meta being introduced.
Yes, he is. Coming back to mid lane, it would seem, well, he's probably going to go off and shoot towards the blue buff instead to give that across to Nidalee. LeBlanc has already picked up her blue buff, so he's going to be able to dish out quite a bit of damage. The passive has been propped, though, from Febiven, so that's going to be a pretty important escaping mechanism out of the picture for Senku, and actually he is going to recall back to spawn. Interestingly enough, they're opting to push this lane because they know Senku is too low to defend this on his own, but Trashy has came round from the side.
Yeah, they know Trashy's there. The ward on the red buff spotted him out, so they have been able to scout out his pathing, and will know that he is on the lower side of the jungle now. So this might even give the now top lane duo of Cloud9 the ability to go aggressive. You can see they are slightly ahead in CS and have been pressuring that lane very hard, and Senkux once again flashes up red in that middle lane.
Yeah, he's taking a pounding from those javelins right now. Needs to be super careful. We'll be recalling. And adds the Boots of Speed, or Boots of Mobility as I called them in the Face It Invitational before, to his arsenal. Also picked up another Doran's Ring, so similar mentality to Febiven. He just wants the extra tank ability, sustainability to survive against those javelins, because that's pretty much what's been the Achilles heel of him so far.
And that's one of the most difficult things about playing, about picking LeBlanc first, is you leave yourselves open to so many skill matchups, and that's what the LeBlanc Nidalee matchup is. Trashy's looking to go aggressive in the bottom lane, will ward jump over, but he's been spotted.
Odone still has his flash though, so he's going to be firing that one away. Ultimate was also burned from Beansu. They do get the flash, so it's pretty significant, and Beansu is just going to be getting that farm. As Rise is pretty much fine, actually. Didn't take a whole chunk of damage. Ku from the side, though, here. Stress is going to be jumping on Beansu, so they could try and turn this one back around. Remember, his ultimate is down, so he's forced to use his summoner as well.
I was going to say ultimate for Flash they'll trade any day, but that was overall looked like two larger cooldown ultimates for two Flashes, so fairly even overall. But one big thing about that is the difference between Rise's Flash and Shyvana's Flash is Shyvana has Dragon's Descent when it is available to escape situations. One of the limitations of Rise is that, apart from the movement speed boost that he will get from Desperate Power, he has no other escape mechanism. So it could be in a couple of tricky situations, but here's the Dragon attempt out of Cloud9.
Oh, that Javelin's already doing quite significant chunks of damage. Just over 10 minutes. That is going to be the Dragon secured from Ku there. So that is going to give a 1.6k gold differential lead to Cloud9 Eclipse in the early stages of this game.
And I've got to say, Cloud9 are looking once again more comfortable. Something that I wanted to bring up earlier but didn't really find the right time was Cloud9 for a little while played without Ku and looked a little bit lost. I'm going to be honest. That's what they were playing their lineup for the Face It Invitational and a couple of other tournaments as well. And without Ku being that aggressive jungler, they didn't really look the same team that they had done when they started out in the Challenger Series. So they're looking much better on form right now than they have done in a couple of weeks.
That's a very good point, because not only is it the synergy with your jungler, but a lot of people who are Cloud9 Eclipse fans do view Ku as being one of their star players. So being without that jungler and all the communication that that takes with it is a pretty significant blow to the synergy of the team. And you can see already with him stepping back into the lineup, they seem a lot smoother to me.
They do, for sure, and Ku undoubtedly, regardless of what team he's on, is one of the top junglers in European Challenger scene, and it looks like both junglers are going to make their appearance in the top lane.
Trashy going super aggressive, kicks back Odomni, but here comes Ku from the side, does pick up that kill in this trade. Odomni flashing up red, but he's going to be just fine, and that gank completely backfires. Now Febiven's coming to top lane, going to be trying to pounce and get this one back on his team. Beansu popping his ultimate javelin, not able to connect, and they won't take down that second kill. Still, though, they're going to be able to push this top tower.
And you can see how much damage even Beansu is starting to take from Ku, and it's all to do with the fact that he's laning against a Ryze. Typically, in the top lane, we've been seeing a lot of the champions like Shyvana building armor first, or even damage. This time, forced out into a Negatron cloak really allows the exploitation of Ku to land more damage out of the jungling. Now he's aggressive in mid.
Yeah, he flashed on Senkus, who then in turn flashed, use that summoner. The pounce is enough. Here comes Trashy from the side, trying to pick up the kill on Ku. Beautiful heal coming out from Febiven, not able to keep his jungler alive, but did buy him enough time to secure the kill on Trashy. 4-1, the overall scoreline.
And you got to feel a little bit sorry for Ku there, in the sense that he actually leaped in as the clone died with bottom lane.
Bottom lane, Crystalland eats a Tibbers to the face. He's going to be culling away here. He's taking a lot of poke damage. Here comes the ultimate from Caitlyn. Good guy, Barney D will be closing that one off, but the Ignite is enough to take that one out. And Annie picks up the kill.
Big kill there in that bottom lane as well. And to go back to mid lane, I'm sorry, but Ku leapt in as the actual LeBlanc died, and he was jumping on the clone. So it was a little bit of miscommunication there between the two. Ultimately, they traded 2 for 1, so overall is actually still a really good trade in favor of Cloud9, and they're accelerating this game very well. 4,500 gold is the lead. They're picking up kills in every lane. As I said, this is a very different Cloud9 to what we've seen the past week and a half.
Yeah, definitely. I said about 3 minutes ago on the button it was a 1.6k difference. That has now escalated into significantly more gold. So that goes to show, as you say, they are pushing down on the accelerator button and they are starting to take this one away from Reason Gaming. It's by no means over yet, Stress, but if it keeps going at this pace, it's going to be quite soon.
Yeah, it's something that Reason have to be careful now. The fact that Dragon isn't there and won't be around for a little while means that Cloud9's focus is going to be on turrets, and they have to start rotating to defend better than Cloud9 are going to rotate to aggressively take them down. You can see that's already happening by Senkux rotating to this bottom lane. They want the 4v3.
Barney D eating so much damage, he doesn't have his box either. It was burnt in that previous engagement, so they get the free kill. Trashy coming around from the corner, tries to make some plays, but Ku actually, I believe, leaped out of the Dragon's Kick there. I didn't quite see it. Regardless, though, he does manage to live the fight for another day. Ace in the Hole comes down, will be blocked away from this end.
It looked like Trashy wanted it, but it didn't actually go on cooldown, so it looks like it was just really nice timing out from Ku there to avoid that animation before it even begun. But that really was just a product of Barney D looking for the aggressive play too early on. They had LeBlanc rotating down, but Barney D had already engaged at that point, and it just meant that he died before the rest of Reason were in that fight. So once again, Cloud9 taking more from these fights than Reason.
Yeah, 3-1 Kha'Zix, 2-0 Nidalee, and Ryze, who's 30 CS up on his counterpart of Shyvana in every lane. It's looking pretty tasty right now from Cloud9's perspective as Ardent Blaze Scumbag Crystalline cancels 2 recalls there, and he'll be looking to do so again, just forcing back Yarnan and Voidal, but they're going to be happy to keep in the lane and pick up this next wave of creeps.
So I'm looking at the itemization, and something that's a little bit different here is that Annie has gone for that face of the mountain. Now, I'm going to theory craft a second here, based on the Kha'Zix ultimate evolution first. So, the ultimate evolution from Kha'Zix, any shielding you get also gets the damage reduction on it, which doesn't take the additional penetration into account. So essentially, any shields you get also act as that bonus health that get the bonus damage reduction, so you take less. So I imagine that Face of the Mountain is going to be used onto Kha'Zix. You can see he's got a Hex Drinker for the same reason. That shield is going to give him so much more survivability. And it's a very interesting item choice on a champion that normally you wouldn't even bother considering Face of the Mountain on.
So you think they're trying to stack their comp around Ku basically jumping in and trying to assassinate somebody?
Well, when you look at their comp, they're going to have a very tanky Ryze towards the end of the game, and then Ku will be able to deal a significant amount of damage while still being tanky as well. And the more shielding that they can get on him, they'll have heals from Forbidden as well. They can just keep Ku alive, tanking damage in the middle of the fight. Kianan and Odoamne will be given free reign because Kha'Zix is still a high priority target, even if he is building towards more of a tank focus. So it's just a very interesting adaptation on what we saw this weekend at IEM.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life, and Cloud9 can afford to do this right now because they are so far ahead. Already 7,000 gold ahead, pre-20 minutes, I should say. And that's not a stat that you say too often in this game, Stress. Normally it's a lot closer around the 20-minute mark, but this is quickly accelerating out of Reason Gaming's grasp.
And there's a really big issue with that when you take into account how that top lane is going. Now, Binsu hasn't died. That's something to note, that it's not going badly in the sense that they've got a lot of kills there, but he's behind on farm and won't be finishing a complete item for a little while. He's got 1,000 gold now, so he may be able to look towards the Sunfire Cape, but that Negatron cloak first out of him has really pushed him behind. You can see Ryze has got the Rod of Ages and has already over half stacked his Tear of the Goddess. So Ryze is already well into his build, into becoming that mid and late game terror. Shyvana is nowhere near that point, and that is a big, big problem for Reason Gaming.
Yeah, and you can probably see how that's going to equate into more objectives as this game goes along, Stress, because what I'm expecting to see happen is Odoamne just to push top lane. He doesn't really need to do a great deal else in this game, and it's going to draw out 1 or 2 players to come to top, and in the meanwhile, the rest of the composition of Cloud9 can just look to siege the likes of mid lane with the Nidalee and slowly but surely take it down.
And it's one of those things is now they've got to face off against the Nidalee, and without their team being tanky, Voidal takes a lot of damage from Senkux, but one spear lands and Senkux is already not able to go back in on that fight. But you look at the itemization from Reason Gaming, they can't survive a Nidalee that has a needlessly large rod for more than a couple of spears, and that's a big problem once again for Reason Gaming, and they need to turtle up and just try and avoid spears is about what they can do here.
Yeah, and they are going for this siege around mid, and Odoamne just being a real thorn in the backside of Reason Gaming right now. But they are starting to move up onto the red buff, and they will be picking that one away very comfortably indeed. Ku locks that one down for his team, and Reason Gaming, they can't even afford to go into their own jungle. Ace in the hole comes out, Binsu is forced to back on away.
And even though they don't get the kill there, they're going to get another turret. Cloud9 once again playing the objective game. This is what we saw from them back in January and February when they burst onto the challenger scene. This is what they were so good at, why they got picked up by Cloud9. It is a return to form for Cloud9 in Game 1 here.
Yep, and as you say, it's kind of a grudge match here, Stress, because they don't have the greatest of records against Reason Gaming.
Yeah, they don't. As we said, 4-0 in the Riot Challenger League are Reason Gaming over Cloud9. Of course, a little bit of a different roster last time these two met, but Reason and certainly a great team themselves. They haven't dropped a map yet in the second split of the Challenger Spring Split. So, Reason are a very formidable team, and Cloud9 have showed up to play here. They have themselves a massive lead.
They certainly have. Trashy ward jumping does eat a javelin for his troubles, though. And even on Trashy, who's pretty tanky right now with that Sight Stone in the early stages of the game, is still taking a chunk of damage, and Nidalee just throwing out those javelins consistently with the blue buff can do this all day long. And as you say, if they just land a couple javelins, that could be the green button, the green light to go ahead and pick up this tower, even engage.
And you look, top lane's pushing in, bottom lane is starting to push as well in favor of Cloud9. They've only got to buy time and maybe get a catch here, but they've only got to buy time for Dragon. They can rotate out for that and try and open the map once again. And oh wow!
Oh, that I actually need to go have a shower, dude, because that was disgusting. That damage.
This is 21 minutes in. Yes, it was max range, but that's not even full build Nidalee. That's a Nidalee with 1300 gold in the inventory.
How do you even play against that, though? Because even if one javelin lands, it doesn't matter who it's on. Even Trashy's going to take a ton of damage here. That's going to equate into objectives.
The problem is they don't have a champion. Typically, it'd be Shyvana that would be a little bit more willing to tank through this damage, but this Rise pick has really opened up, and Reason getting a force to fight.
It's a desperation engage. Beansu by himself, he's going to get crushed. Double kill there for Featherven. Now looking to turn their attention on Senkuz, who will just be backing on away. Prislin's taking a load of damage as well from Odomne, who's putting out fair chunks himself. Barrier was used, and here comes another javelin from Featherven. Delayed triple kill.
And Ku didn't even need the ultimate in that fight. He saved it until the last moment. The surrender vote comes out 21 minutes and 58 seconds into the game. And Cloud9, as we said, here to play this week.
That's about as clean as you're going to see a victory in League of Legends, I have to say, Stress. That was all systems go from minute one. Odomne was just ahead of Shyvana throughout